Australia, a land of extremes. Home to natural-born killers found nowhere else on Earth. Where prehistoric predators dominate floodplains, while scorched desert sands lay host to an evolutionary arms race, and where devils haunt the night. Australia truly is a realm of monsters. Australia's tropical top end is torn between two distinct seasons of drought and deluge. Shaped by the extremes of opposing natural forces, wildlife here has evolved to weather the storm. And at the end of a long and deadly dry season, unseen terrors lie in wait. A 5-meter-long saltwater crocodile lurks in a muddy creek bed, all but entombed in the cool, concealing sludge. Most salties from this stricken region departed months ago, bound for the open ocean and its rich bounty of seafood. But this huge beast is a stayer. He's decided to tough it out, to hold his ground until the summer rains fall. A croc of this size, cleverly conserving his energy, can survive on limited food for some time, but not indefinitely. With his life hanging in the balance, it will take more than a light shower to free this monster from his muddy crypt. It will take a monsoonal deluge. The saltwater crocodile stirs. And he's hungry. Saltwater crocodiles are notoriously dangerous. One of only a few predators in the world to actively stalk humans as prey. Growing up to 6 meters in length and weighing up to a ton, they are the world's largest living reptiles. This monster is one of the biggest on the floodplain. But that doesn't appear to deter competition. A drifting male has returned from the open sea, and he's encroaching on this salty's turf. The larger salty will not tolerate such an intrusion on his territory, and aggressively defends his domain. The dispute is over swiftly. Clearly outmatched in size and strength, the intruder continues his journey downstream. In these croc-infested waters, challenges are frequent and victory is never guaranteed. To maintain his dominant position on the floodplain, this boss croc must build his strength. After months of wallowing idly in the mud, it's clearly time to refuel. And for this hyper-carnivorous apex predator, anything big and fleshy will do. The reinvigorated wetlands attract an abundance of life. Leading the way, migrating birds arrive en masse. They appear to be oblivious to the danger that lurks beneath. Covered by protective translucent membranes, his uniquely adapted eyes are able to scan the horizon, while his head remains motionless. Affording him a competitive edge. An unwary egret makes for the easiest of appetizers, leaving room for an entree or two. Existing here for nearly 100 million years, saltwater crocodiles are the largest riparian predators on the planet. He's more than capable of taking down a water buffalo the size of a 1-ton truck. But on land, his lumbering frame is easily spotted. Once in the water, however, this monster has well and truly mastered the art of stealth. His essential senses, his eyes, nostrils, and ears are all situated on the top of his head, allowing the bulk of his body to remain hidden as he's actively seeking out prey. Other animals have no way of knowing the true size of the beast beneath. Even if they are alert to his presence, he appears to be small and relatively harmless. This wallaroo has no idea of the fate he's tempting as he wanders in to quench his thirst. The water's edge is the crocodile's preferred kill zone. His approach is so quiet, even the most vigilant or skittish creatures are taken completely by surprise. Using his powerful tail to propel himself up through the water, the crocodile's explosive attack is fast and furious. With the strongest bite force of any living animal on Earth today, the saltwater croc dispatches this hapless roo with terrifying efficiency. His long, lethal teeth are designed to bite but not chew. So the crocodile uses his aggressive power to tear flesh into chunks that can be swallowed whole. A staggering display of this prehistoric monster's capacity for mayhem. A meal of this size will likely keep the croc's appetite in check for several weeks, which is good news for other wallaroos in the area. Life here is perilous. To survive in these croc-infested waters, it pays to be well armed. Falling between December and March, Northern Australia's annual wet season creates an opportunity for marine monsters to transcend the barriers of their realm. Exploiting flooded estuaries, the stonefish is an unlikely predator. An awkward swimmer, he's simply not built for the chase. Just getting from point A to point B is an arduous task, so actively chasing down prey is not a viable option. This monster's approach is more passive-aggressive. Camouflage is his strong suit. Once he finds the right spot, he'll remain sedentary for some time. He'll even tolerate algae growing on his rough skin as it enhances concealment. In his element, it's obvious why the stonefish is so named. He is virtually indistinguishable from his surroundings, and all he has to do is wait. He's an ambush predator, and patience is the name of his game. In these brackish waters rich in prey, he doesn't have to wait long for a potential meal to drift into his kill zone. Despite those big bulbous eyes, his presence goes unnoticed. Timing, when the element of surprise is your key weapon, is everything. If he strikes too soon, the fish are alerted to his presence. But wait too long, and they fin out of range. But once the fish strays within optimum striking distance, he launches an accurate and lightning-fast assault. The unwary fish never saw it coming. While the stonefish's attack is most impressive, it's not his only standout feature. He is notoriously the world's most venomous fish, which is a prestigious title indeed, when considering that there are more venomous fish species on the planet than venomous snakes. Concealed within a thick coat of skin on his dorsal fin, 13 needle-like spines are underpinned by highly developed venom glands. Rather than weapons of attack, they form a formidable defensive array, a deadly deterrent to would-be predators. A powerful predator in its own right, this saltwater croc is wise to avoid the toxic marine invader. Potentially lethal to humans, thankfully the development of antivenom has significantly reduced modern-day fatalities. Stone-cold killers. Stonefish are not the most venomous creatures in these waters, nor are they the most prolific. The northern Australian coastline is under siege. Between the months of November and April, blooms of jellyfish inundate the continent's tropical waterways. While some are harmless, others are exceptionally lethal. With a bell-shaped body no larger than a fingernail, there is more to the tiny irukandji jellyfish than meets the eye. Incredibly, irukandji venom is 100 times more potent than a cobra's, and 1,000 times more deadly than that of a tarantula, making this tiny marine stinger one of the most venomous creatures known to man. Moving stealthily through these warm tropical waters, the irukandji is a cold-blooded killer. But remarkably, they are not considered to be the most dangerous marine stingers present here. Deceptively innocuous in appearance, the lethal box jellyfish is known to have claimed more than 70 human lives. and they are here in force. Preferring calmer waters during the wet season, adult box jellyfish gravitate to river mouths and estuaries to spawn. And while here, they must feed. While most jellyfish opportunistically snare prey as their tentacles trail through the murky water, box jellyfish are active hunters. They are capable of propelling themselves at speeds of up to 4 knots as they pursue small fish and shrimp. Chemical sensors, rather than touch receptors, in their 3-meter-long tentacles detect prey. And once they've located their mark, it's game over. Each thin strand contains several thousand stinging cells, microscopic harpoon-shaped mechanisms that inject complex venom into a victim. Much faster acting than irukandji venom, and catastrophic to human biology, box jellyfish envenomation can lead to cardiovascular collapse and death in as little as a few minutes. The use of such overwhelmingly lethal force protects the marine stinger's delicate tentacles from being damaged by prey trying to escape. The potency of its venom just as effective in defense. And it will likely come as no great surprise. The box jellyfish has few natural predators. It's an Aussie killer in a league of its own. While some hidden terrors lurk unseen along the northern Australian coastline, there are other marine monsters present here that clearly advertise their deadly nature. Lurking beneath the surface of northern Australia's deadly tropical waters, this pint-sized predator packs a powerful punch. Not much bigger than a baseball, the blue-ringed octopus has a lethal bite. Its venom is 10,000 times more toxic than cyanide, capable of killing 26 people in less than 90 minutes. Clearly punching above its weight, the blue-ringed octopus is one of the most venomous creatures on the planet. Methodical and slow-moving, this male blue-ringed octopus is by no means an endurance hunter. He clambers across the floor of the intertidal zone, seeking small crustaceans to devour. His mantle pumps water through a siphon to flush away silt that may be concealing prey. Armored and well-armed, this crab is not entirely defenseless. To avoid injury, the blue-ringed octopus must take it by surprise. Approaching with stealth, his nimble tentacles reach out to restrain the crab's menacing claws. Easily penetrating the crab's exoskeleton, the octopus's sharp, horny beak delivers a single venomous bite. A cocktail of deadly toxins rapidly overwhelms his prey. His strong limbs make short work of the crab's tough exterior, allowing him to quickly access the fleshy meat within. To resist the outgoing tide, he keeps a single tentacle tethered. But the current is not the only force threatening to claim his unfinished meal. Always on the lookout for easy pickings, nearby fish hungrily eye his prize. But the octopus is not so easily intimidated. He sends a vivid warning to potential foes. Flashing iridescent blue rings pulse across his body. If the threat persists, the octopus will excrete a different but equally lethal defensive venom into the surrounding water. In the animal kingdom, such vivid displays are rarely misunderstood. The signal is heeded, and the octopus is left to finish his meal in peace. Although removed from the perils of these toxic terrors, life above the waterline is no safer. In this part of the world, you don't have to be big to be deadly. You just have to be well armed to kill or avoid being killed. This inconspicuous herbivore is a female peppermint stick insect. While it peacefully feeds on the leaves of the pandanus plant, this stealthy stick uses the plant's sharp spines as protection from potential predators. But not all predators are so easily deterred. With a leg span of up to 13 centimeters, huntsman spiders are large, active hunters. And a living nightmare for local invertebrates. Sensing the approaching threat, the stick insect attempts to conceal herself within the fold of a leaf. But when her cover is blown and all appears lost, this seemingly benign insect reveals an unexpected secret weapon. Located behind her head, specialized glands produce a toxic deterrent. She's able to fire a stream of viscous liquid up to 60 centimeters in any direction. Smelling strongly of peppermint, the chemical is an irritant, a form of insect tear gas. And more often than not, it has the desired effect. While this evolutionary defense strategy is quite remarkable, there is another Australian freak of nature that wields a secret weapon that is perhaps even more intriguing. While Australia is inhabited by a host of dangerous creatures, few are as freakish as this one. The duck-billed platypus is one of nature's more unusual creatures. It has the paddle-shaped tail of a beaver, the sleek body of an otter, and a flat bill and webbed feet like a duck. And hidden amongst this seemingly random assemblage of oddities, this unique monotreme conceals a remarkable secret weapon. Located on the inner hind leg, the males of the species are armed with a highly venomous spur. An exceptionally rare trait amongst modern mammals. The possession of venom speaks to the platypus's prehistoric past and distant evolutionary connection to reptilian ancestors. Strong enough to kill a small mammal, platypus venom is not used to subdue prey, but rather for defense. Although it's non-lethal to humans, platypus venom can cause excruciating and long-lasting pain, impairing a victim for several months. While it is used as an effective deterrent against predation, the primary function of the platypus's venom spur is to assert dominance over competing males during breeding season. And it appears that this female has attracted more than one suitor. Indifferent to their romantic intentions, she dives below the water's surface in search of food. While foraging underwater, her eyes and ears remain closed. She navigates her way around the debris-littered riverbed using pressure sensors and thousands of tiny electroreceptors housed in her duck-like bill. It's an effective sixth sense that allows her to detect the minute electromagnetic signals emitted by crustaceans and other prey species. Once snared, she returns to the surface to grind up her quarry between calcified plates in her toothless bill. Seizing the opportunity, the two competing males vie for her attention. A volatile situation that soon escalates into combat. Suffering painful envenomation, the loser yields to the stronger male. Allowing the victor to begin his courtship of the female. If successful, it's an act that will result in yet another bizarre natural phenomenon. Although she lacks a venom spur, she has her own unique link to a prehistoric past. Along with her close relative, the echidna, she is one of the few mammals to lay eggs. Uniquely Australian, the platypus truly is a genetic oddity. Bizarre, grotesque, brutal. The killers of Northern Australia's tropics take on many forms. But there is one that looms larger than most. Between the months of November and April, Northern Australia endures its annual cyclone season. Deriving immense energy from the warm tropical ocean, these wild storms unleash nature's unbridled fury. The skies appear to bubble and boil as gale-force winds drive stinging rain. And and surging storm waves batter the coastline. It's an almighty display of natural force that leaves devastation in its wake. Amidst the aftermath, fallen casualties litter the beach. While the deadly cyclone has spelt misfortune for some, for others, the parting storm clouds possess a silver lining. Emerging from impromptu shelters, sand goannas forage amongst the debris. And after several days without food, they are hungry. But they are not left wanting. The cyclone has gifted them with a glut of fresh seafood. Despite the abundance of easy pickings, sand goannas display a strong natural tendency for competition. This large male sees off a lesser rival. But in the cyclone's dramatic aftermath, these goannas are not the only predators to emerge hungry. A pair of young dingoes is on the prowl. Ignoring the dead fish, they hone in on a potentially more substantial meal. The dominant goanna is now on the defensive. Inexperienced in the art of the hunt, the juvenile dingoes are not entirely sure of how to attack the situation. And this 1.5 meter long goanna is not entirely defenseless. A bite from his powerful jaws could prove nasty. Recent studies have discovered that Australian monitor lizards are armed with venom, similar to that of snakes. But working in tandem, the dingoes maintain a strategic advantage. An adept swimmer, the lizard's best chance of survival is to make it to deeper water. But the attack of these dogged wolf-like predators is relentless. Ultimately, the young dingo's inexperience proves a saving grace for the lizard. A lucky escape. While the sand goanna will live to fight another day, the dingo pups won't go hungry. When times demand, dingoes will resort to scavenging. And there are no shortage of easy pickings here. While tropical cyclones can wreak death and destruction, they are not the only killers in these parts carried on the wind. Rich in fruiting tree species, Australia's tropical top end attracts a menagerie of seasonal visitors. Some deadlier than others. Sinister in appearance, flying foxes are the world's largest megabats. With a wingspan of 1 meter, little red flying foxes are by no means the largest species. But they are certainly one of the most prolific. Nomadic in nature, they congregate in camps of up to 1 million individuals. Unlike their smaller, bloodthirsty relatives, flying foxes, or fruit bats as they are commonly known, are vegetarians. But they are by no means harmless. These bats are potential killers. By day, they rest in treetops. But at the setting of the sun, this army of darkness takes flight, obscuring much of the twilight with their eerie silhouettes. When flying foxes are around, night appears to fall early. The only mammals to have evolved true flight. Bats stay airborne on wings made from strong, elastic skin that stretches between their elongated finger bones. While their carnivorous cousins use echolocation to navigate and hunt, flying foxes use their keen vision and strong sense of smell to locate food. They favor the nectar of flowering plants and are instrumental in the dispersal of native plant species. Pollen, carried on the bat's fur, pollinates neighboring trees. As they travel throughout the forest, they bring with them the promise of new life. Unfortunately, they also host more insidious passengers. Bats are notorious for spreading disease. They carry a number of deadly pathogens, including the Australian bat lysovirus, which is particularly harmful to humans. The virus is transmitted through the bite of an infected bat. The symptoms are not unlike those associated with rabies and are invariably just as fatal. Curiously, the virus has little effect on the bats themselves. As natural hosts, flying foxes may be impervious to the microscopic pathogens they carry. But there are other unseen killers present here. Before returning to their roosts, these bats make a fleeting pit stop. Drinking mid-flight is an efficient way to quench their thirst. Although occasionally, it's risky business. Hidden below the water's surface, freshwater crocodiles are keeping a watchful eye. Smaller than their saltwater relatives, freshies are abundant in the rivers and wetlands of northern Australia. Growing to a modest 3 meters in length, their diet is usually restricted to smaller prey, fish, amphibians, water birds, and when the opportunity strikes, bats. Patiently, Purposefully, this female tracks the bats in flight. Her eyes, ears, and nostrils are strategically positioned on the top of her head, a physiology she shares with her saltwater cousins. A perfect adaptation for an ambush predator. Floating motionless, she must time her attack perfectly. Whipping into action, her powerful tail and webbed hind feet aid her launch from the water. Lined with sharp teeth, her snapping jaws probe the air for flesh. It's not an exact science. But patience is a virtue. There is no need to dismember this morsel. It is easily swallowed whole. The monsoon provides an abundance of food and ideal conditions for raising young. Calling to their mother from within eggs laid during the dry season, hatchlings signal that they are ready to emerge. Driven by motherly instincts, she surfaces, ready to assist her brood's safe passage to water. She knows only too well that her young are vulnerable at this tender age to predators like pythons and goannas. Suddenly, she's faced with a more immediate threat. She's crossed paths with a larger and fiercer predator. Almost double her size, a male saltwater crocodile stands between her and her nest. It's a perilous situation. Saltwater crocodiles are fond of the flesh of their lesser cousins, even one of this mother's size. She can put up a fight, but it's one she cannot hope to win. She's outmatched in almost every respect, bar one. Capable of surprising bursts of speed, she takes flight, galloping towards safety. Leaving nothing for the salty to eat but her dust. Her young have no choice now but to fend for themselves. Life here is fraught with danger, and it pays to keep a watchful eye. Because in these parts, predators can appear out of thin air. As Northern Australia's wet season draws to an end, migratory species begin to take flight for greener pastures. As a parting gesture, a mated pair of white-bellied sea eagles invites this colony of flying foxes to an impromptu farewell feast. Unfortunately for the bats, however, it appears that they are at the top of the menu. With a wingspan of more than 2 meters, white-bellied sea eagles are Australia's second largest birds of prey. Hunting in tandem, the mated pair hone in on separate targets. Fast and agile, the female uses her deadly talons to nab prey at high speed, while the male turns his attention to those closer to Earth. It appears the bats are no safer in the canopy than they are in flight. Happy to leave this nightmarish scenario behind, the flying fox colony sets off on their long migratory journey. Despite the mass exodus of prey species, these white-bellied sea eagles won't go hungry. They are equally at home scavenging amongst the retreating floodwaters. For now, that's enough to provide sustenance for the pair's young family. At this age, these two young chicks are totally dependent on their parents. And with the dry season now in full swing, the adult pair must begin to look for food further afield. Abundant in prey year-round, the nearby sea pays little heed to the whims of the seasons. It is easy to see why white-bellied sea eagles are so named. They are indeed impressive marine predators. From high above, their exceptionally keen eyesight allows them to spot prey from up to 3 kilometers away. Movement on the water's surface has caught their eye. Driven upwards by large predators below, a shoal of fish forms a defensive bait ball near the surface. As white-tipped reef sharks ruthlessly attack the shoal from beneath, capitalizing on the chaos, highly venomous sea snakes lie in wait near the water's surface. Amidst the frenzy, the fish have little notion of impending death from above. Seizing this moment, the male sea eagle swoops and steadfastly snatches an unwary fish from the water's surface. Not to be outdone, the female moves in. Her sights lock on a more formidable target. In the midst of its own hunt, a deadly sea snake is brutally plucked from its aquatic realm. Her razor-sharp talons quickly neutralize the threat posed by its lethal fangs. A killer in its own right, this recently deceased sea monster provides a substantial meal for the kids. Helping the next generation of white-bellied sea eagles to continue their long-standing tradition of raining death from above. To survive and thrive in a tropical region dominated by the ebbs and flows of life-giving water, some species of northern Australia's unique wildlife have developed a veritable arsenal of specialized weaponry. To hunt, maim, and kill. Because up here, no matter how formidable the predator, there is always a more ruthless killer waiting for its moment to strike. Australia is the driest inhabited continent on Earth. The majority of the continent's interior is dominated by vast arid regions and expansive red deserts. These barren landscapes are frequently gripped by drought. And with temperatures soaring towards 50 degrees Celsius, local wildlife has had to come up with some extreme survival strategies. Australia is home to some of the world's most venomous snakes. None more so than this one. The fierce snake, or inland taipan. Its complex venom is extremely potent. The most toxic snake venom on the planet. Just one drop is enough to kill 250,000 mice. Fortunately, this shy and elusive species inhabits one of the most remote regions on Earth, so confrontations with people are rare. Which is a good thing, because the inland taipan, with its highly specialized venom and preference for warm-blooded prey, is exceptionally lethal to humans. The toxins contained in a single bite could kill 100 men in less than an hour. It's a true killer. This large female, approaching 2 meters in length, braves the midday sun. She's on the hunt. But with the mercury approaching 40 degrees, the scorched surface is barren and empty. Taking refuge from the blistering heat, prey species remain hidden from view. Unseen, but not undetected. Traversing the crusted surface, her flickering tongue probes cooler and darker places. Concealed deep within their burrows, native nocturnal rodents spend the daylight hours resting and keeping cool. But if they think they are safe down here, they're surely mistaken. With highly specialized receptors on her tongue, the inland taipan detects key chemicals in the air, alerting her to the presence of prey. The hunt is on. Her slender body is perfectly shaped to invade the rodent's retreat. Stealth is key to her success. Smooth and glossy scales reduce surface friction, so her movements are fluid and silent. In closer quarters, she relies on relatively strong eyesight to hone in on a target. Fast and agile, native rodents are no easy meal for a taipan, even in these confined spaces. The taipan has chosen her victim, a plump desert plains rat. She leaves little to chance, strategically positioning herself to corner her mark before moving in for the kill. Her strike is incredibly fast and devastatingly accurate. To reduce the risk of injury to themselves, snakes will often strike and retreat. But the inland taipan strikes repeatedly. For she knows the complex cocktail of toxins within her venom will kill, and kill fast. While hemotoxins attack the rodent's circulatory system, fast-acting neurotoxins induce paralysis and ultimately respiratory failure. Together, these potent ingredients form an overwhelmingly lethal dose. For the rat, the end is swift. It's the chemical complexity of the inland taipan's venom that makes it the world's deadliest snake. The rat, once devoured, will sustain the taipan for up to 2 months. It's a timely feast, for she now has an energetically expensive job to do, producing the next generation. The relative safety of this newly vacant burrow is the perfect environment to lay her clutch of more than a dozen eggs. Not one for sentiment, she leaves the eggs to incubate. She has no intention to return. Her work here is done. The nutritious content of their eggs give these young hatchlings an energetic start to life. Left to fend for themselves, they instinctively go their separate ways to avoid competition. Each snake will carve out their own solitary existence in this most inhospitable of habitats. From birth, they are well equipped. Their chemical weaponry is just as potent as their mothers. Even so, at this tender age, these natural-born killers are vulnerable to predation. From above and on home turf. Many juvenile inland taipans do not survive to adulthood. Nature can be kind, but equally cruel. In this extreme environment, the agenda is kill or be killed. The line between hunter and the hunted is particularly fine. Natural selection has predator and prey locked in an evolutionary arms race. Measuring up to 3 meters long and weighing in at around 6 kilograms, the king brown snake is one of the world's largest venomous snakes. Despite their regal name, king browns actually belong to the black snake family. This large male is foraging for a meal, and his predilection is decidedly cannibalistic. Occasionally, he will nab a bird or small rodent, but he prefers cold-blooded prey. The most prolific creatures in these parts. Reptiles are at their most vulnerable while basking in the sun. A fact the king brown knows well. His broad head houses a pair of quarter-inch, needle-like fangs, an efficient venom delivery system, capable of piercing the toughest of scaly skin. One of the most venomous snakes on Earth, the king brown's venom is reliant on myotoxins, chemical agents that attack the muscles, leading to rapid onset paralysis. His venom is particularly effective on cold-blooded species, while a small skink provides an easy snack. Other reptiles are not to be underestimated. Last to leave the clutch, this juvenile taipan's exit is fortuitously timed. Cold-blooded killers cross paths. And in this barren landscape, a potential meal is rarely ignored. But which killer here is the hunter, and which has suddenly become the hunted? Even at this young age, the venom of the inland taipan is the deadliest of all snakes. But the larger king brown senses an advantage and moves in. Instinctively, the young taipan perceives the threat and lashes out. For most animals, the consequence would be fatal. But eons of coevolution have equipped the king brown with a resistance to local venoms, including that of the inland taipan. The taipan, on the other hand, has no such defenses. Although not as toxic, delivered in a chewing action, the king brown's counterstrike contains a higher venom output than any other snake on Earth, which quickly overwhelms the victim. The natural order of the Australian desert is complicated. Topping the world's deadliest list doesn't necessarily guarantee a spot at the top of the food chain. Out here, adaptation is the key to survival. Australian deserts are home to more reptile species than any other place on Earth. Vying for supremacy, a reptilian evolutionary arms race has raged here for eons. Despite the endless cycle of one-upmanship, there is inevitably a frontrunner. Regarded as an intelligent species and growing towards 3 meters in length, the Parenti is the largest and fiercest lizard in Australia. They are formidable apex predators. Like all cold-blooded reptiles, this large male starts the day basking. An opportunist, he is both capable hunter and a far from discerning scavenger. A trait that greatly increases his chances of survival in this unpredictable environment. His diet consists of small mammals, birds, and other reptiles. And given the right circumstances, he may also take on larger prey, like wombats, kangaroos, and even lone dingoes. But hunting these powerful animals is not without risk. Of course, some smaller desert dwellers are equally well armed. The Parenti's flickering tongue has picked up a scent. Defying the glare, his well-shaded eyes pinpoint the source. The recently fed king brown, seeking a cool and quiet place to digest its meal, suddenly finds itself in a fight or flight situation. Although capable of dominating even the deadliest of snakes, this is a conflict the king brown does not want to enter. Because the Parenti has also developed resistance to snake venom. Unfortunately for the king brown, its prospects for outpacing the Parenti are at equally long odds. Capable of reaching speeds of more than 30 kilometers an hour. Over a distance, Parentis are one of the fastest of all reptiles. While lizards are generally not the most efficient runners, Parentis are well adapted to the chase. Acting like bellows, powerful muscles in his throat continuously pump air into his lungs, even while running. Flushed out into the open, there is nowhere left to hide. Attempting to neutralize the king brown's dangerous fangs, the Parenti's attack is aggressive and brutal. But his powerful grip is ill-placed, and in desperation, the snake lashes out. The savage blow gives the Parenti pause for thought. With one final display of aggression, the king brown seizes its moment to escape, Cutting his losses, the parenti moves off in search of an easier meal. As the relentless summer drought rolls on, only the larger watering holes remain, and these are few and far between. They provide respite for some, and a golden opportunity for others. The parenti's arrival is well-timed. A mega flock of migrating parakeets swirls like a storm cloud above. Numbering in the thousands, they move as one. Individuals momentarily break from the flock to gulp a drink, then quickly return. They are right to be wary. The parenti is not the only predator lurking nearby. All the commotion has drawn other unwanted attention. Raptors begin to gather. Falcons and kites watch on with keen eyes and carnivorous intent. And then it begins. A spectacular aerial battle of life and death. The hunter and the hunted. Black falcons swoop to the chase, attempting to single out stragglers within the heaving mass. With dazzling effect, the flock moves as a single entity, disorientating their agile pursuers. The parakeet's defensive strategy holds, for all but the weak and wary. Amidst the onslaught, the parakeets must risk a drink. Now whistling kites join the fray. Using a different strategy, they target distracted parakeets on the water's edge. For the raptors, it's a feast in the midst of famine. The patience of the parenti is also rewarded. He slinks in to capitalize on fallen casualties. His adaptable diet greatly increases his chances of survival. Like a passing desert storm, the parakeets move on to the next watering hole. Peace returns to the vast open land. But life in this living furnace is never quiet for long. In the midst of a deep Australian drought, desert life hangs in the balance. For some, it is insurmountable. Only the fittest survive. But for how long? And as prey numbers dwindle, predators are forced to adapt or die. In such times, strategy is paramount to survival. A drifting dingo arrives at the watering hole. He scans the area for would-be prey. But some creatures are better left alone. Driven by hunger, the dingo probes for weakness. Unsure, he is wise to stay his curiosity. A lone dingo is no match for a parenti of this size. Dingoes are relatively new arrivals to Australia. Thought to have made the crossing from Southeast Asia as little as 5,000 years ago. The largest land predator on the continent, these canines quickly established themselves as apex predators. But prey in these parts is becoming increasingly harder to come by, signaling tough times ahead for this wandering loner. He hasn't always been a nomad. Descended from wolves, he's habitually a social animal. Traveling to woodlands on the desert's edge, his instincts tell him that it is time to rejoin the pack. He approaches with caution. He knows there is a fiercely contested hierarchy within this pack. Unwelcome guests often meet with a grim fate. But his scent is familiar, and he is welcomed home. So long as he remembers his place. The pack is led by an alpha pair. The battle scars of this older and more experienced alpha male dingo are worn with distinction, powerful symbols of his hard-won authority. Comprised of several generations of the same family, the pack has a pecking order. The strong assert dominance, while the weak are left to fend for themselves. Lessons are learned from a very young age. And the established social hierarchy is maintained into adulthood. Though all are not equal, together they are stronger. Reuniting as a pack is essential to their collective success. To survive the leaner times, they must endeavor to take larger prey that requires a more sophisticated hunting strategy, a strategy that requires cooperation. Eastern grey kangaroos are amongst the largest, fastest, and strongest of Australia's native animals. A dingo acting alone would stand little chance of bringing one down, but there is strength in numbers. Much faster, the kangaroos easily evade their pursuers. But little do they know, the pack is working in unison. Leading the charge, the alpha male singles out a target. Corralled by the pack, the unwitting quarry is continuously driven towards ambush. This tactic will wear the prey down, but the burden of its pursuit is shared amongst the dingo pack. Fresh legs are only a yelp away. As the kangaroo tires, a single misstep seals its fate. A crushing bite to the throat brings the chase to an end. Despite the united effort, when it comes to the spoils of the hunt, there is a distinct pecking order. Arriving on the scene, the alpha male claims the carcass. Lesser dingoes wait their turn. Boldly, the recently returned young male attempts to muscle in on the action. It's a mistake. In these stark times, there is little tolerance for challenge. The retribution is brutal and unforgiving. The young male is banished from the pack. Licking his wounds, he must return to a life scavenging on the desert plains. All the while, hoping that one day soon, the rains will bring salvation. It's a dog-eat-dog world. In this desolate heartland, only the toughest survive. resources are few and far between, and distance is a silent killer. But there is one creature supremely adapted to overcome such limitations. The red kangaroo is the world's largest marsupial. Its unique anatomy has evolved to contend with the desert's extremes. It's one of the most successful desert-dwelling mammals in Australia. But even the resilient red kangaroo is tested by this seemingly ceaseless drought. Known as boomers, only the males of the species are red in color. At 3 years of age, this young male is approaching his prime. But his future is uncertain. Heat, dehydration, and starvation insatiably claim the lives of those ill-equipped to deal with such challenges. Tried and proven survival strategies offer limited relief. Digging below the scorched surface exposes cooler sand, providing some respite from the relentless heat. The evaporation of saliva from his forearms further lowers his body temperature, but this tactic is risky, for here, every drop of water counts. Distant life-giving rains tantalize from afar. But these showers won't reach the mob. And so the mob must risk traveling to them. For many animals, this lengthy journey across open desert would prove suicidal. But the red kangaroo is not most animals. The mob is on the move. The red kangaroo has one of the most efficient aerobic physiologies of any mammal on the planet, expending less energy on breathing at speeds up to 24 kilometers an hour than he does while standing still. He's perfectly built for this unique, efficient form of locomotion. The lengthy journey was worth the risk. Stimulated by short-lived rains, desert grasses burst into life amongst shallow pools. This desert oasis won't last long. But while it does, the mob will remain. Sensitive to environmental conditions, a dormant natural urge awakens. To get a female red kangaroo to mate, just add water. But unfortunately for this boomer, it's not that easy. Otherwise known as blue flyers, the females of the mob are only accessible to the dominant alpha male. To win favor, he must challenge the king. A daunting task not to be undertaken lightly. This older, larger, and battle-hardened veteran has dominated the mob for several seasons. But the young male is no slouch either, and has youthful stamina on his side. The long journey has left the king somewhat weakened and vulnerable. The challenge doesn't go unnoticed. The king accepts. When vying for mating rights, boxing males use their powerful forearms to grapple for supremacy. Minor bouts are often settled in this way. And since the females have seen it all before, they pay little attention. But when the males are evenly matched, the ritualized fighting escalates into a far more aggressive and dangerous battle. Using their muscular tails for support, they launch and land powerful, bone-crushing kicks. The higher stakes attract a crowd. The long central claws on the hind feet of each fighter are capable of disemboweling and maiming. Eventually, the challenger lands the decisive blow. The coup is complete. Usurped, the defeated monarch will live out his remaining days in exile. Having proven his genetic superiority, the new king wastes little time in staking his claim. The females now submit to his advances. If the mob can survive the drought, the next generation will be given the best possible start to life. Sired by the fittest and most resilient male in the mob, they will carry genetic makeup millennia in the making. In every challenge, nature provides an elegant solution. Some more extreme than others. Some creatures are built to kill, others to weather the deathly storm. And while some have adopted a subtle approach, there is one species that has taken a more aggressive stance. Twisted by eons of evolution into a uniquely grotesque form, the thorny devil is Mother Nature's desert monster. The thorny devil is clad in imposing armor. From head to toe, he may be short in stature, but he's not short of defensive strategies. He's able to adapt his colorations to best blend in with his surroundings. Camouflage is his first line of defense. His staggered walk is a further attempt to conceal himself. By mimicking windswept foliage, he's harder to spot from above. If he does draw unwanted attention, his second line of defense is more imposing. Protecting his head and other vulnerable body parts, he can roll up into a ball of impregnable spikes. An effective deterrent. In more desperate times, a false head comprised of non-essential fatty tissue is offered as a sacrificial decoy, leaving him to fight another day. In these parts, ants are as perennial as the desert sands. Providing a year-round food source for the desert's thorny devils. Positioning himself along the ant trail, the devil's sticky tongue captures a seemingly endless supply of protein. He can devour several thousand in a single sitting. Ant Armageddon. By effectively allowing his food to come to him, the thorny devil conserves valuable energy. While food is plentiful, there is another essential resource this creature needs to survive. And it is much harder to come by. Water. Treacherous, brutal, relentless. Drought is an indiscriminate killer. When the last of the summer waters evaporate, so too do many of the life forms that depend upon it for survival. Plants and animals alike. More resilient than most, however, the thorny devil has evolved remarkable adaptations to extract water from even the driest environment. In a process known as wicking, a seemingly gravity-defying technique, the devil channels groundwater along grooves between his spines, uphill into his mouth. He can perform the same trick overnight by collecting dew between his spines, rehydrating even while he sleeps. In this way, the thorny devil cheats even the most insidious of desert killers. As evening progresses, the darkness affords little refuge from the monsters of the outback. For the dead of the night has its predators too. As the sun slips below the horizon, the temperature drops significantly. The cool desert nights offer some respite from the scorching daytime heat, but they are no safe haven from predation. Twilight merely ushers in a changing of the guard. The cold-blooded reptiles yield to the creatures of the night. Under a cloak of darkness, herbivores and omnivores emerge. Nocturnal marsupials and rodents forage for insects and the seeds of native grasses. And where herbivores are present, carnivores are never far away. Most active within the twilight hours of dusk and dawn, introduced hunters are present in vast numbers. While red foxes kill indiscriminately, feral cats wreak havoc amongst the populations of native species. Few here are safe from their insatiable appetites. Lean and muscular, feral cats are fast and agile predators with acute senses that are perfectly adapted for hunting at night. Originating from the North African wildcat, feral cats first arrived in Australia with early European settlers in the late 18th century. With few natural predators, their populations soon exploded. A hyper-carnivorous predator, this queen wildcat is a voracious hunter. Her finely attuned ears and eyes scan for the slightest movement. With lightning-fast reflexes, her sharp, retractable claws are always at the ready. She's a supremely adapted killing machine, with an insatiable appetite for flesh. She toys with her food, but this is no game. These paw swipes are designed to sedate her prey, neutralizing their capacity to bite or sting, until the killer blow can be delivered safely. Cats are compulsive hunters. Requiring up to 300 grams of prey on a daily basis, she needs to feed often. While small mammals and rodents make up the bulk of her diet. As an adept tree climber, native birds and their eggs make easy targets. Well adapted to arid environments, wildcats are able to endure even the driest of conditions. While most mammals retreat from the drought, she remains, braving the blistering heat of the daylight hours, surviving on only the hardiest of desert creatures. Even in the starkest of conditions, cold-blooded reptiles thrive, providing her with more than just nutrition. She's able to extract all the moisture she needs from devoured prey. Untethered to a dependency on groundwater, she's able to roam freely, one of the secrets to her success. But the success of the wildcat in Australia's desert regions has come at a high price. The recent loss of several ground bird and small mammal species has been largely attributed to the invasion of this voracious beast. Fierce nocturnal predators, wildcats are not the only monsters to prowl the desert nights. Under a full moon, the Australian desert bustles with life. Even the shadows appear to creep and crawl. Scorpions are one of the oldest of all terrestrial animals. First crawling from the oceans around 430 million years ago, they are common in the world's tropical regions. Yet, far from the sea, the Australian desert scorpion has carved out an unlikely existence in the continent's withered heartland. This large female is an impressive nocturnal hunter. Specialized hairs on her body detect the subtlest of air and ground vibrations, alerting her to the presence of prey nearby. Her lightning-fast claws ensnare prey with all the ferocity of a steel trap. Her flexible tail is punctuated with a venom gland and piercing barb. Delivering a stinging blow, her prey is incapacitated, then eaten alive, extracting not only nutrients but valuable water, All of the scorpion's dietary requirements are met through predation. Not all prey, however, is so easily dispatched. Dunarts are nocturnal marsupial carnivores, and they regularly prey on invertebrates. But not at this age. Youthful curiosity and inexperience has led this young joey into peril. Because desert scorpions also prey on small mammals. The hunter has become the hunted. But a mother's timely intervention thwarts any plan for a pre-dawn appetizer. For the creatures of the night, the breaking of the day signals time to retreat. The desert scorpion's primary adaptation to life in the desert is its burrow. Spiral in shape, it can be up to 1 meter deep. Temperatures are much cooler below the surface, and she feels well hidden from watchful eyes. Of course, some desert dwellers are equipped with more refined senses. The flickering tongue of a sand goanna follows a chemical trail. Betrayed by her scent, her sanctuary is compromised. With only one exit, her refuge has become a death trap. The crusted walls offer little resistance to sharp reptilian claws. The goanna's thick skin and resistance to scorpion venom render her weapons useless. As the sun rises, so too do the reptiles, quickly reclaiming their realm. The harsh realities of the Australian deserts have given rise to a variety of unique evolutionary traits that share a common purpose. They are weapons of the wild, used to hunt, maim, and kill. Deadly monsters rule Australia's desolate interior, day and night. The lowest and flattest continent on Earth, Australia is not without its vantage points. Lurking within these rocky highlands is a multitude of stone-cold killers. Moving with intent across the darkened forest floor of Australia's Great Dividing Range. This is the world's deadliest spider. Endemic to a small area immediately surrounding Australia's most populated city, the Sydney funnel-web spider has a fearsome reputation. In a country replete with dangerous monsters, it incites more than its fair share of fear, with good reason. A unique peptide known as atrocotoxin, found within its venom, is particularly lethal to humans. Before the development of antivenom, the bite of this terrifying spider was more often than not fatal. Smaller creatures don't stand a chance. Although utilized in defense, funnel-web venom is primarily used to kill prey species, such as insects, frogs, and lizards. Preferring cool and moist microclimates, the spiral-shaped web of this male is both refuge and lair. An ideal place to plot a deadly surprise attack. Meticulously maintained, an elaborate array of tripwires act as an early warning system. They alert the spider to the presence of would-be victims. This wandering cricket is oblivious to the imminent threat and pays the ultimate price. Once envenomed by the spider's lengthy venom-tipped fangs, the cricket is quickly immobilized. Retreating back into his sticky funnel, the spider will consume his meal in solitude. As night deepens, the funnel web ventures from his lair. He's on the hunt again. Not for prey this time, rather for a mate. For all their impressive bravado, mating season is a perilous time for male Sydney funnel-web spiders, so he best keep his wits about him. Females are often extremely aggressive towards potential suitors. Yet despite having infinitely more powerful venom, males are reluctant to use it against their mate during this strangely combative ritual. By raising her forelimbs against any other foe, a striking pose, she signals that she is in fact ready to receive this male's packet of sperm. But hitting a home run doesn't guarantee he'll be safe. Mating rituals like this will often end with the female killing and consuming her sexual partner. An act that ensures her own well-being and that of her future offspring. The odds are against him escaping. But clearly, this is his lucky day. She allows him to beat a hasty retreat to the sanctuary of his underground lair. Slithering along a rocky creek bed, not far from the funnel web's home, is one of Australia's most notorious venomous snakes. Rarely straying far from the water's edge to which he is so well adapted, this male red-bellied blacksnake is on the prowl. A versatile hunter, he can track prey over land and water, and will even swim in pursuit of tadpoles and fish. Given the chance, he is not beyond a spot of red-bellied cannibalism. But today, his keen eyesight and hearing have detected a less formidable target, albeit one on the move. Spooked, the faster-moving frog darts for cover. But it leaves behind a chemical trail which is quickly detected by the snake's probing tongue. Outpaced but not outmaneuvered, the red-belly's perseverance is rewarded. For the nimble frog, escape is no longer an option. Using his hollow fangs to deliver a concoction of deadly toxins and coagulants, the snake swiftly overwhelms its prey. Although clearly immobilized, there's little point in waiting for the frog to die. It's devoured while still alive. With a full belly and a surge of springtime endorphins coursing through his system, the red-bellied blacksnake leaves the confines of the watercourse in search of a mate. But unlike the funnel-web spider, it's not the females of his species that he needs to be wary of. Notoriously competitive, male red-bellies are particularly aggressive towards each other during breeding season. Slithering around boulders and fallen logs, he's apparently not the only one looking for love. Leaving a trail of pheromones, a nearby female has attracted several suitors that must compete for mating rights. By raising his head and flattening his neck, this red-bellied blacksnake can easily intimidate a smaller rival. But when a larger male attempts to assert dominance, more drastic measures must be taken. This aggressive combat is more than mere showmanship, and the stakes are high. Although immune to the venom of their own species, bites like this inflict deep puncture wounds and act as a powerful deterrent. By overcoming the last of his competitors, he momentarily secures uninterrupted access to the female and a chance to pass on his genetic legacy. While competition for breeding rights is often hard-fought, for one devilish species, ritualized aggression is simply part of daily life. Cut off from the Australian mainland for over 10,000 years, the remote state of Tasmania is one of the world's most mountainous islands. And skulking deep within its rugged primordial wilderness are Tasmania's mysterious flesh eaters. For this island is bedeviled by strange nocturnal monsters. The island's rugged primordial wilderness really comes to life just on dusk, as the birds return to roost and nocturnal herbivores begin to emerge. They are being watched. A crepuscular hunter is already on the prowl. For all its decidedly benign looks, the tiger quoll is one of the fiercest predators in the country. Measuring nearly 1 meter from head to tail, it's the world's second largest marsupial carnivore. While this large male will occasionally hunt wallabies and wombats on the ground, wildlife in the treetops is no safer. Notorious for his lethal aerial assault, even the biggest of possums must be wary of this arboreal predator's carnivorous appetite. Ever vigilant, his keen nose has caught a scent. Stalking silently through the canopy, he inches closer to his chosen target, pausing occasionally to avoid detection. Once within striking distance, he launches his deadly attack. His powerful jaws and large canine teeth quickly dispatch this eastern rosella. It's a tasty morsel, but it will not completely satisfy his hunger. Driven by a voracious appetite, he descends to the ground. His nose has detected another, more pungent scent: carrion. Present on this continent for nearly 16 million years, the tiger quall's adaptable diet has seen it through times of feast and famine. Easily tearing away the outer fur, he focuses on the soft tissue of the wallaby's carcass. Scavenging carrion ensures he is never left wanting. But there is another, larger and fiercer marsupial scavenger in these parts, one that is not fond of competition. A close relative of the quoll, the Tasmanian devil is the largest and most ferocious marsupial carnivore alive today, and more than a match for a quoll. To avoid becoming a meal himself, the quoll retreats into the night. In an attempt to conceal his newfound prize, this juvenile male devil drags the carcass into nearby bushes. There is little time to waste, and little doubt other devils will want a share of his spoils. Carried on the wind, the scent of dead flesh can travel great distances, as can the devils themselves. They can cover 16 kilometers in a single night. Expecting company, the juvenile devil's approach to the carcass is less restrained than that of the quoll. Relative to their size, devils have the strongest bite force of any living mammal. While sharp canine teeth tear flesh, powerful jaws and blunt molars combine to crush even the strongest of bones. Nothing will be left to waste. Left alone, this ravenous monster could consume up to 40% of his own body weight in half an hour. But dinner for one is a rare date indeed in the menacing underworld of the Tasmanian devil. The scent of dead flesh draws a crowd. They are one of the few solitary carnivores known to eat communally, though reluctantly. The young male will now have to compete for his share of the meal. As far as communal gatherings go, devil dinner time is decidedly lacking in social graces. But it's not without its rules. To avoid accidentally biting one another, long facial whiskers govern spatial awareness. But when personal barriers are breached, things can get nasty. Learned from a young age, this ritualistic aggression is common during feeding. Body posture, confronting vocalizations, and savage bites are used to assert dominance. Intimidated by a larger male, the juvenile is driven off his carcass. But he won't go hungry. Both scavenger and active hunter, he sets off in search of a victim. capable of killing prey many times his own size. Very few animals in these forests are safe from this ferocious marsupial carnivore. The scent of dead flesh is heavy in the air. But the night's carnage has only just begun. As day breaks over South Australia's rugged Flinders Ranges, soaring high above is one of the continent's most spectacular predators. With a wingspan approaching 2.5 meters, the wedge-tailed eagle is Australia's largest bird of prey. Standing at more than 1 meter tall, this female cuts an imposing figure. While her hooked beak is designed to aid feeding, her talons are tailor-made for killing. They are powerful and razor-sharp. Fast and agile, these monster raptors are capable of taking down heavy-set prey. Even the largest kangaroos need to be wary of a deadly aerial assault. Of course, there are always softer targets. And a litter of unattended dingo pups looks like easy pickings. A quick meal this female wedgetail finds hard to ignore. Mother dingo senses the danger. Racing back to the den, she sounds the alarm. A narrow escape. When they're not actively hunting, these magnificent raptors spend much of the day gliding on lofty thermal currents. But during breeding season, family comes first. Wedge-tailed eagles mate for life. This monogamous pair has produced a small clutch of 2 hatchlings. Only a few days old, they are more than a little demanding, requiring almost constant attention. Mom and dad share the duties, which include the provision of food. Flying in tandem, their keen eyesight enables them to spot prey from up to 3 kilometers away. The female eagle detects movement in the undergrowth. An unfortunately timed exit from its burrow has landed a European rabbit in her crosshairs. This introduced species makes up a large part of a wedge-tail's diet, so she's well versed in second-guessing its movements and ready to respond. Breaking from cover, the rabbit makes a run for it. If it can make it to one of the many warren entrances, it will evade her deadly talons. But as quick and nimble as it is, the rabbit is no match for this remarkable aerial predator. Her razor-sharp beak makes short work of the carcass. This meal will be enough to feed her entire family, but only if she can protect it from hungry interlopers. Attracted by the commotion, a curious dingo pup investigates. Oblivious to the risks of its actions, the pup attempts to steal a morsel. Its impudence is quickly and unceremoniously corrected. Having eaten her fill, she returns to the nest and her 2 hungry chicks. But upon return, she's met with a grim discovery. One of her young is dead. To avoid competition, the slightly larger chick has killed its smaller sibling. An act that is not uncommon in the world of wedge-tailed eagles. A perennial pragmatist, the mother leaves nothing to waste. Immediately feeding her dead chick to her now only child. In a natural order dominated by well-adapted killers, it's often only the strongest that survive. While many creatures in Australia are well armed, few are as well armored as the short-beaked echidna. What better way to defend oneself than with a suit of menacing spines? It's obviously a strategy that has played out well for the species. They're one of the oldest surviving mammals on Earth. They can live well into their 50s and thrive literally anywhere in Australia. The tropical north, the temperate south, even here in the otherworldly and desolate landscape of the Bungle Bungle mountain ranges of Western Australia. While defensive spines are literally her strong suit, she's not without predatory weapons. Impressive claws, a probing snout, and a tongue that defies imagination. Perfect tools for breaking into fallen logs in search of a meal. The short-beaked echidna's diet is predominantly made up of ants and termites, but finding such tiny prey is not without its challenges. Following scent trails, she's using more than a keen sense of smell. Electrosensors detect minute electronic impulses emitted by her invertebrate prey. Of course, as tiny as they are, when it comes to building their dwellings, termites are less than subtle. These termite mounds provide a smorgasbord. Her devilishly long tongue extends about 18 centimeters beyond her snout. It is highly mobile, and the tip can even bend into a U-shape, allowing the echidna to reach into every nook and cranny inside the termite's home. Sticky saliva traps multiple victims at a time. Termites retreating deeper into the mound are no safer. Her sharp claws make short work of the tough outer crust, which is essentially composed of soil, termite saliva, and dung. Enjoying the feast, the echidna suddenly realizes she is not the only one on the hunt. Dingoes are Australia's wolves, the largest and fiercest of the continent's land carnivores. and this pair have honed in on one of the echidna's scents. It's a perilous situation, but one she is not unfamiliar with. She digs in to protect her vulnerable underside. Erecting a quiver of needle-sharp spines, she forms an impregnable fortification. Holding tight, she prepares for the onslaught. Unable to breach her armor, the dingoes try a different tactic. If they manage to expose her soft underbelly, she will stand little chance of survival. But she endures. Even the most determined and dogged predator knows there's a tipping point where pain will outweigh any gain. While the echidna's defensive strategy is second to none, there is another uniquely Australian species that utilizes a predatory strategy so seductive in nature that some find it simply irresistible. As the springtime sun thaws Australia's alpine region, cold-blooded killers awaken from their winter slumber with an undeniable desire for flesh. A shuttling heliotherm, this cold-blooded skink recharges in the morning sun, occasionally moving off into the undergrowth to break his long winter fast, before returning to his sunlit rock. Ever on the lookout for the next potential meal, movement in the leaf litter below catches its eye. But this time, it's no grub. It's a lure. The skink is not the only reptile to have awoken from its winter slumber with a murderous appetite. Having covered itself in leaf litter, the common death adder has cleverly concealed itself in the undergrowth. Unlike most Australian snakes, he's not an active hunter, rather a cunning ambush predator. Lying motionless, he tantalizes unsuspecting prey with his wriggling grub-like tail, strategically positioned close to his well-camouflaged head. By any other name, this maneuver is a death trap. But for it to pay off, the snake needs to be patient. Like a coiled spring, he waits until the skink inches into the kill zone. With long, weaponized fangs, the death adder's strike is the fastest of any Australian snake species. The bite is so toxic that without antivenom, it could claim the life of a human within 6 hours. For the skink, the end comes much sooner. The stealthy death adder moves on to find a new place to play his cunning game of hide and seek. With such menacing creatures on the loose, having an effective means of escape can mean the difference between life and death. Relatively defenseless, soft-bodied insects, crickets generally use their forward limbs to get around while grazing, while powerful hind limbs and concealed wings are deployed when danger threatens. Normally, such a surprise attack from a hungry trapdoor spider would be lethal, but on this occasion, his reflexes are outclassed. When it comes to legwork, there are few on the forest floor that can best this mini monster. Australia's giant centipede uses its multiple legs as offensive rather than defensive weapons. These aggressive carnivores can measure up to 25 centimeters in length and pack a powerful punch. This giant centipede is capable of killing and devouring a small mouse or frog, so insects rarely stand a chance. She actively seeks out her victims, not by sight, but by touch, and a remarkable ability to detect chemical signals emitted by potential prey. Betrayed by its scent, a cricket draws her attention. Light of foot, she silently closes the gap on her mark. Hunting such nimble prey requires stealth and precision. And does not always result in success. But this predator is persistent. Her aim is to get close enough to neutralize her victim's exit strategy. This time, the sheer number of its opponent's limbs overwhelms the cricket's powerful legs, allowing the centipede to administer a lethal dose of venom through specialized legs known as poison claws. Packed with a witch's brew of toxins and potentially lethal to humans, the venom of the giant centipede is potent enough to rapidly paralyze prey species. Once immobilized, she uses powerful mandibles to dismember and devour her prey. Looming large in its microcosmic world, the giant centipede is not without its own natural predators. After all, size is relative. And even the smallest of raptors threatens death from above. Perched above nearby grasslands, an Australian kestrel is on the lookout for a meal. Her keen eyes survey the surrounding area for small mammals and reptiles, her preferred prey. Measuring just 30 centimeters from head to tail, Australian kestrels are one of the continent's smallest birds of prey. Although slight of stature, she doesn't shy away from more formidable targets. Venomous invertebrates like spiders and centipedes often fall victim to the carnivorous appetite of this capable winged predator. Hovering a short distance above the ground, she uses rapid wing beats to remain aloft, while her fan-shaped tail acts as a rudder to control drift. This strategy allows her head and body to remain quite still in flight, offering a stable platform from which to spot a potential victim. And in this endeavor, she is particularly well equipped. Australian kestrels have specially adapted eyes that enable them to see light in the ultraviolet end of the spectrum. Invisible to the human eye, she is able to see scent and urine trails left by prey species. a competitive edge that allows her to predict a target's movements. And these refined tracking skills have led her to a potential meal below. She descends for a closer look. Traversing the moist undergrowth is one of Australia's rarest and most striking endemic species. Critically endangered, the brightly colored southern corroboree frog is easily spotted from above. And the kestrel has it locked in her sights. But camouflage is not this remarkable amphibian's primary defensive strategy. Far from it. Like a human fingerprint, the vivid yellow and black markings are unique to individual frogs and offer a clear warning to potential predators. Contained within its impressive skin is a cocktail of lethal alkaloid-based poisons. Unlike most poisonous frog species of the world, which rely on a diet of noxious insects to procure their toxins, the corroboree frog produces its own lethal brew. By standing out with bright colorations, the corroboree frog attempts to ward off potential predators. Not unaccustomed to taking on venomous prey, this is a fight the kestrel can't hope to win. If she ignores the vivid warning and swoops, she may well kill the frog. But it would surely prove a costly meal, one for which she would pay the ultimate price. Luckily for both, it seems the message is received loud and clear. The kestrel moves off in search of a softer target. Averaging a modest 2.5 centimeters in length, the critically endangered southern corroboree frog wields a virulent deterrent to would-be predators. But there are other tiny toxic terrors present down under, and some of these are by no means lacking in number. High in the rainforest canopy of Australia's tropical northeast, serious construction work is underway. Bustling with activity, green tree ants are busy building themselves a new outpost. Expanding their colony into a new frontier, worker ants use larval silk to weave foliage together to form their signature-shaped nests. It's easy to see why they are otherwise known as weaver ants. Larger in size, the soldiers of the species are tasked with providing food for the working masses. Unafraid to take on prey much larger than themselves, the soldiers work as a team to overcome their toughest missions. These soldiers are also burdened with an equally important job: defense. Their new construction has encroached on the territory of another, much larger ant species. A trapjaw ant investigates the incursion. A lone sentinel, it aggressively defends its borders. Its powerful mandibles are the fastest-moving predatory appendage in the animal kingdom. With a peak force of over 300 times the ant's own body weight, they are powerful weapons. In defense, the green tree ant releases formic acid from specialized abdominal glands, which quickly neutralizes the threat. Alerting the colony, the wounded soldier ant now releases a powerful pheromone into the air. Receiving the call to arms, frenzied soldiers go on the attack. To avoid being drawn into the fray, nearby jack-jumper ants opt to flee the scene, using their powerful hind limbs to launch themselves to safety. But the rampaging green tree ants soon descend to the jack-jumper's nest below. And an all-out ant war begins. Driven by hormones, this frenzied attack may ultimately prove unwise. Armed with venomous stingers, jack-jumpers are considered one of the most dangerous of all ant species. Capable of causing anaphylactic shock and death in humans, jack-jumper venom is highly toxic. Despite their size, they are considered to be among the more dangerous animals in Australia. And as reinforcements surge from beneath the ground, they quickly overwhelm their attackers, reasserting dominance over their territory. While chemical weapons help to determine the balance of power within these steamy highlands, they are not the only predatory strategies at work here. Related to the black widow of North America, the redback is one of Australia's most notorious and indeed venomous spiders. Its bite is potentially lethal to humans. The iconic red stripe that runs along the female's back is a telltale sign of her toxicity. Decidedly larger and more venomous, the female of the species remains in the same location for the majority of her adult life. Her fine, strong tangle of silk is strategically laid out to ensnare prey. Incredibly, even small snakes are known to have met a grim fate in the redback's deadly web. More commonly, insects, mice, and small lizards make up the bulk of her diet. She waits motionless for the signs of entanglement, keenly attuned to any movement on her trap lines. Even the slightest vibrations alert her to the presence of potential prey. Undeterred by size, even the largest of huntsman spiders become fair game to a confident redback. She entombs her prey with sticky silk before repeatedly sinking her hollow, venom-filled fangs into the sticky mass. Fast-acting digestive elements contained within the venom begin to break down the corpse, allowing her to drink the liquefied remains. She's an impressive killer and a protective mother. Her eggs and recently hatched offspring are kept safe within the inner strands of her web. Her deadly fangs are fierce deterrents to any would-be assassin. But there is a weapon in the animal kingdom that trumps even the deadliest of venoms: well-developed intelligence. Despite its relatively small brain, the Portia spider is thought to be the world's most intelligent spider. Capable of complex problem-solving, this minute arachnid relies on an entirely different predatory strategy. Discovering the treasure trove of spiderlings within the redback's lair, this mastermind goes to work. He probes the web for weakness. Equipped with multiple forward-facing eyes, His keen vision gauges the deadly redback's reactions. In doing so, he creates a mental map of her movements, testing one pathway after another before making his move. It's risky business. Detection would surely prove fatal. His deliberate swaying movement mimics a gentle breeze blowing across the web. He creeps ever closer to a potential meal or certain death. Ultimately, his high-risk strategy pays off. Oblivious to his intimate proximity, the deadly female redback sits idly by as the industrious Portia spider feasts on her offspring. In this strategic battle between wits and weaponry, a sharp intellect prevails over sharp fangs. The Australian highlands are home to some of the continent's fiercest beasts. Evolving in splendid isolation, these mountain monsters take on terrifying forms of all shapes and sizes. Although diverse in nature, they share one common trait. Manifest in each and every one is the capacity to kill. Because in a realm dominated by monsters, predator and prey alike must kill to survive.